The following video is intended for mature audiences. It contains horror elements, adult themes, and language that might not be suitable for younger viewers. Welcome to the Southern Underworld, your place for original horror, sci-fi, and thriller content where the stories are always written with heart. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. We'd love to know in what part of the world you are watching and what is your favorite horror movie of all time. Thank you for watching and enjoy the video. The craving consumed him, an insatiable hunger that gnawed at his core. John tried to push the dark yearnings from his mind, but the desires only grew more ravenous with each passing hour. Lust was a demon that didn't respond to reason or restraint, whispering seductive temptations until he could think of little else. As the sun slipped behind the trees, bathing the secluded country road in inky shadows, John's trembling hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. He knew if he surrendered to this madness, he would never claw his way back to sanity. His foot pressing harder on the accelerator, the old truck barreled down the lonely stretch of asphalt. John's knuckles turned white, the need to satiate his cravings becoming an animalistic compulsion. The trees whipped by in a blur as he raced toward the decrepit farmhouse on the outskirts of town. He had noticed the young woman who lived there several weeks back while driving the same road. A mere glimpse of her tending the garden, loose tendrils of chestnut hair framing her lovely face, was enough to ignite John's obsession. He knew stalking her was wrong, depraved even, but he was powerless against the lecherous entity that possessed his mind. It had slithered in slowly, injecting dark thoughts and perverse fantasies that soon dominated his every waking moment. At first, John managed to keep the demon at bay through sheer force of will. But as the days passed, the lust mounted, chipping away at his sanity until control was no longer an option. The farmhouse emerged ahead, a shadowy silhouette in the dusk. John's breaths came in rapid pants, sweat drenching his body. He jerked the truck onto the long dirt driveway, tires spitting up pebbles in their haste. The demon cackled in sadistic glee, savoring his imminent surrender. John killed the engine and exploded from the truck. Long strides carried him up the creaky porch steps to the front door, which he pounded on with a frenzied fist. When there was no answer, he simply turned the handle, the flimsy lock offering no resistance. The demon urged him on, fueling his reckless abandon. John ripped open closet doors and tore through rooms in search of his prize. At last, he found her in the bedroom, curled up on the bed in a pool of amber light. The woman awoke with a start at the commotion. Her eyes widened in terror at the sight of the wild-eyed stranger towering over her. John drank in the delicate features that had haunted his waking dreams. The curve of her jaw, the full lips slightly parted in a gasp, the gentle swell of breasts rising and falling with each ragged breath. She attempted to scramble away, but John pounced, pinning her beneath his weight. He reveled in the warmth of her body, the floral scent of her hair, the rapid staccato of her heartbeat thrumming against his chest. The demon screeched in ecstasy as John finally surrendered, his need reaching a fever pitch. His rough hands fumbled as he tore away clothing. The woman squirmed and whimpered beneath him. As John prepared to take what he so ravenously craved, a sharp metallic click froze him in his tracks. His gaze traveled up to the woman's face, her terror replaced by a look of cold determination. In her trembling hands was a small revolver aimed squarely at his forehead. "I'll kill you," she warned in a low, even tone that sent an icy lance of dread into John's gut. There would be no sating his hunger that night. For the first time, his desire was replaced by stone-cold fear, the demon retreating with a hiss of displeasure. John slowly disentangled himself from the woman, keeping his movements non-threatening. He muttered a hoarse apology before slinking from the room like a dog with its tail tucked between its legs. The demon raged in fury at being denied its satisfaction. As John sped away from the farmhouse, the terrified face of the woman branded into his mind. Dark thoughts percolated. If lust could not be sated through consent, perhaps violence was the key to silencing his tormentor, at least temporarily. The demon howled in approval at this grim realization, but John knew it was only a matter of time before he surrendered to its perverse urgings once again. A sinister smile carves itself onto the devil's visage, his gaze reflecting the malicious flames that flicker and frolic within the ceremonial circle. My heart pounds a panicked beat against my ribcage in the eerie silence of the forsaken church. Yet the irresistible allure of untold riches, a life chiseled from gleaming gold and raw power, muffles my terror. With a hand quivering like an autumn leaf caught in a gust, I ink our unholy agreement, each character leaving a bitter aftertaste on my tongue. Blind to the frosty fingers of greed coiling around my soul, their grip tightening with each passing second, I bask in the initial bounty. Fortune floods in like a tsunami, erasing debts, sparking envy, and fueling my unquenchable cravings. Palatial homes replace shanties, diamonds sparkle on my digits, society bows before me. But as years seep away like water through clenched fingers, the pack's price becomes excruciatingly apparent. The icy clutch of greed has transformed into chains, constricting not only my spirit but also my humanity. Friends morph into enemies, love sours into suspicion, genuine connection is encased by biting loneliness. The stranger reflected in the mirror is alien, eyes ablaze with a frigid fire of cunning. The devil's mocking laughter reverberates in my nightmares, a chilling reminder of debts spiraling out of control. Once coveted wealth now feels like golden manacles, suffocating me. In desperation, I attempt to sever our pact, to retrieve what I've so recklessly traded away. But old Nick, the crafty trickster, proffers a cruel choice: renounce your riches or forfeit your life entirely. The toll of greed extends beyond the material. It menaces existence itself. Fired by defiant bravery, I spurn both options. Instead, I turn Satan's weapon against him. My wealth is redirected into constructing orphanages, endowing hospitals, and anonymously aiding struggling artists. Each act of charity gnaws at my greed-encrusted chains, loosening Lucifer's grip. The struggle is savage, strewn with hurdles and temptations, but every act of kindness eases the frosty grip. The manacles grow brittle. In a climactic clash powered by the might of benevolence, I shatter our pact. The devil evaporates, his laughter replaced by the innocent giggles of children in my orphanage. The once crushing burden of wealth now serves to uplift others, to repair the harm I've inflicted. Scars linger, a chilling reminder of that unholy contract in my dalliance with darkness. But I emerge not shattered but redeemed. The devil's grin forever etched in my memory serves as a stark warning. True wealth lies not in material possessions but in shared empathy and enriched lives. Greed may levy a hefty price, but redemption, though arduous, is worth every sacrifice. For when all is said and done, genuine treasure isn't gold. It's love and the connections we nurture. Suddenly a chill runs down my spine as an icy whisper fills the room. Our deal is not yet done. Fear creeps in. Terror seizes me. The story doesn't end here, it has only just begun. Evangeline Hart, a distinguished archaeologist, held logic and reason in high esteem. Superstitions and folklore were mere hindrances in her relentless pursuit of historical truths. Her current objective, the long-lost city of Xibalba, a cursed Mayan metropolis rumored to contain untold wisdom. Evangeline scoffed at such notions. Curses were for simpletons. Real danger resided in treacherous jungles and ancient booby traps, not wrathful spirits. Her team, an assortment of hardened veterans and zealous newcomers, echoed her cynicism. They plunged into the heart of the Guatemalan rainforest, their machetes slicing a path through the lush labyrinth. Weeks passed, trekking through the dense vegetation, consumed by an unrelenting silence broken only by the chorus of unseen insects and their heavy breaths. Finally, they stumbled upon it, Xibalba. It wasn't the majestic city depicted in time-worn murals, but a collection of decaying stone structures choked by vines and shrouded in a stillness. Evangeline's heart pounded with excitement. She was on the brink of a monumental discovery. Ignoring warnings from local guides about a place too old to be safe, Evangeline spearheaded the excavation effort. They discovered intricately carved tablets, bearing cryptic symbols promising boundless knowledge. One sweltering afternoon, they reached the city's heart, an imposing obsidian pyramid covered with glyphs that seemed to dance under the sunlight. The inscription above its entrance sent chills down her spine. The gateway to Xibalba. Seekers of immortal knowledge enter here. The team members were filled with fear, but Evangeline remained calm and focused. She was on the brink of finally answering all the questions that had haunted her throughout her entire career. A biting gust of wind swept across her face as she reached for the ancient locking mechanism. The rusted gears groaned in protest as she turned the key, unlocking the massive stone door. With a loud creak, the door swung open, revealing a narrow passage shrouded in darkness. The air was thick and musty with a hint of decay. A wave of nausea rose in her throat, but Evangeline refused to give in. She had come this far and was determined to uncover the secrets hidden within the depths of the ancient structure. Steeling herself, she stepped into the void before her. The group descended into the abyss, their torchlight flickering in the increasingly dense air. The walls were adorned with grotesque murals depicting horrifying rituals and sacrifices. A constant sense of being watched gnawed at Evangeline, but she pressed on. They entered a grand chamber with an obsidian map of the cosmos glittering from the ceiling. In the room's center sat a skull on a pedestal, its eye sockets glowing. An inscription at its base said, "Drink from the chalice and become one with the universe." Adjacent to the skull was a chalice made of pure gold, its contents emitting an otherworldly glow. Evangeline couldn't resist the temptation to possess this ancient knowledge, even as her team gasped in horror. A thunderous voice echoed around them, resonating deep within Evangeline's bones. "Are you worthy, mortal?" Driven by her pride, Evangeline responded defiantly, "Knowledge is power. I am worthy." The voice chuckled. "Knowledge is a burden. Drink and become one with Xibalba." Evangeline hesitated momentarily, but then drank from the chalice. The elixir burned her throat like wildfire while a flood of visions overwhelmed her mind. She witnessed civilizations rise and fall, stars being born and dying in a never-ending cycle. The pain subsided, leaving behind a profound emptiness as she gazed upon her hands now comprised of shimmering obsidian. The knowledge she sought had come at a terrible price. The voice boomed again. "Welcome, Evangeline Hart, to eternity. Become part of Xibalba." Evangeline's shrieks faded into a chilling whisper, reverberating through the vast chamber. Her body, now a sleek silhouette of obsidian, fused with the walls, becoming an indistinguishable part of the accursed city. Her eyes mirrored the eerie glow of the skull, their once vibrant hue replaced by a hollow void. In her quest for knowledge, Evangeline had not ascended to godhood but descended into captivity. Her team was gripped by terror. Sydney, a fledgling archaeologist with an insatiable curiosity, seized the chalice as if it held her salvation from Evangeline's fate. The voice thundered in fury, "Do you dare rob me of what is rightfully mine?" Tears fell from Sydney's dirt-streaked face as she raised the chalice defiantly. "We will not surrender her to you. No amount of knowledge is worth this." The voice responded with a derisive laugh. "You are too late. You all shall become part of Xibalba." As an invisible force swept through the chamber, it shuddered violently. Sydney noticed the intricate cosmic map adorning the ceiling and its cryptic inscription, "In cosmos lies the truth. Seek equilibrium." Despite the quaking ground and chilling laughter resonating around her, Sydney focused on recognizing constellations from long-discarded astronomy lessons. She directed the chalice towards a depicted vortex of darkness on the celestial map. "This isn't enlightenment," Sydney cried out in defiance. "It's entrapment." She emptied what remained in the chalice into the depicted vortex. A blinding radiance exploded throughout the chamber, followed by an agonized wail from unseen depths. When her vision returned, Sydney found herself alone amidst the wreckage of the once expansive chamber. The walls of obsidian were deteriorating into ordinary stone, and with them, the petrified form of Evangeline crumbled. Shards of the chalice lay scattered at her feet. Above her, a patch of clear blue sky offered a glimmer of hope. Tears coursed down Sydney's cheeks as she contemplated the cost of their escape. Evangeline's fate stood as a grim testament to unchecked ambition carved into the annals of history. As the remainder of the team emerged from the debris, their faces reflected an equal measure of awe and dread. The memory of Xibalba's terrifying curse would be forever etched in Sydney's mind. They would never forget what they had witnessed. Back in civilization, Sydney withdrew from society, and she rejected the accolades that came with discovering Xibalba, haunted by the horrors she'd experienced there. She dedicated herself to guarding the knowledge Evangeline sought, but also felt compelled to add a crucial caveat. Knowledge was indeed power, but it also carried the weight of responsibility. It should not be pursued at the expense of human compassion and empathy, or it risked becoming an ornate prison and grotesque monument to pride's eternal price. Despite Sydney's warning, universities raced to decipher the tablets and museums vied for the artifacts. Expeditions planned return trips to the lost city. Sydney watched helplessly, knowing that within Xibalba's decaying heart waited two vacant obsidian eyes glowing with an unnatural light. The curse of Xibalba, born from conceit, remains ever present, waiting for its next victim, a haunting reminder of the fine line between knowledge and destruction. The mansion stands, a chilling monument to my unbridled avarice. Its exterior, carved from pilfered moonbeams and polished marble, shimmers under the glow of diamond-laden chandeliers of uncertain origin. Entering its lavish heart, an icy emptiness seizes my soul, a void no feast could ever satiate. I plotted, fought, and gorged myself into this golden prison. Once I yearned for power and the exhilarating rush of ownership. Now it's a monstrous beast devouring everything in its wake, leaving only an unfathomable abyss. The opening course is an assortment of unusual delicacies, each morsel a momentary ecstasy followed by deepening emptiness. The second dish presents forbidden fruits that taste like broken dreams and fragmented promises with a bitter aftertaste of regret. Each dish seems to taunt my desolation with its surrounding splendor. Laughter from invisible guests reverberates through the halls, a ghostly orchestra of superficial contentment. The paintings on the walls whisper stories of past gluttons whose spirits were consumed along with their riches, as their frosty eyes mirror my escalating despair. I indulge in jewels, relish in tears shed by those less fortunate, and drink greedily from cups overflowing with ambition's lifeblood. Yet the hunger persists, an unquenchable abyss swallowing not just food, but also my very being. The final dish arrives, one solitary apple shriveled and bruised. Biting into it unleashes a torrent of memories, not victories or triumphs, but forgotten kindnesses, betrayed affections, and squandered chances to be better. The apple tastes like ashes and regret, a stark reflection of the life I've devoured. Abruptly, opulence gives way to desolation. Barren wasteland replaces lush decadence as reality sets in. The mansion turns skeletal before me. Its glittering facade fades away. The hunger, finally satisfied, leaves a chilling emptiness in its wake. I am alone, stripped of everything but the echoes of my greed resonating in the desolate landscape. My pleas for mercy are met with the hollow laughter of unseen guests, a chilling reminder that the true cost of insatiable greed isn't just internal hollowness, but also the external chaos it causes. The mansion, a testament to my greed, watches silently as a soul is consumed by its desires. Now I roam these decaying halls as a ghost, a warning to those who dare chase fleeting pleasures born from greed. The hunger may never be satisfied, but its real price is far beyond any wealth. It's the cost of your very soul, forever trapped in golden bars you forged. In this grim irony, I discover that even amidst opulence and extravagance one can starve, for what we crave most isn't always what truly nourishes us. And so here I remain, not as master or conqueror, but as a prisoner, ensnared in a monument built from my insatiable desires. Suddenly, darkness. Wild jasmine and honeysuckle perfumed the air, and their vibrant hues wallpapered the landscape. Myra, a young woman of striking beauty, was known as a free spirit with an inquisitive nature. Her hair, inky black, cascaded down her back in rivulets, and her bright green eyes held an audacious spirit that often unsettled others. During one sweltering summer evening, her curiosity stirred. Myra wandered into the forest and found herself in a clearing where Liam worked. A local woodsman by trade, Liam's wide shoulders and chiseled arms moved rhythmically as he wielded his axe, each swing sending chips of wood flying. Sweat trickled down his sun-kissed skin, catching the last rays of sunlight and making him glisten like a statue carved from bronze. His linen shirt was half opened, revealing his muscular chest and abdomen. An unexpected sensation stirred in Myra's depths, a yearning so potent she could almost taste the nervous anticipation on her tongue. Her heart pounded, the rhythmic beat echoing in her ears. Her eyes were glued to the figure before her, an embodiment of masculine perfection who held her captive without uttering a word. She drew in a shaky breath and was hit by his scent, a mix of earthy pine and musk that was so inherently male. It invaded her senses, making her unable to concentrate on anything else. Every nerve ending in Myra sparked to life as she watched him with wide-eyed fascination, entranced by the Adonis standing before her. Their eyes locked across the clearing, and something palpable passed between them, an attraction both immediate and powerful that neither could articulate nor rein in. Despite being betrothed to another woman, a match arranged by his family, Liam felt an irresistible pull toward Myra. Unable to deny the magnetic pull they felt toward one another, Myra and Liam began an intense relationship. Their rendezvous point was a forgotten cabin, nestled on the outskirts of their small town. Their stolen moments were filled with mutual warmth and longing. Each touch was a spark that stoked the fire within them, every kiss a sweet surrender. Whispers of their clandestine meetings circulated throughout the village. The elders strongly disapproved, cautioning them about the severe repercussions if they succumbed to their desires. Yet Myra remained unperturbed by these admonishments, too ensnared by her burgeoning feelings for Liam. One night, beneath the moon's silvery glow, Myra and Liam surrendered once more to their insatiable need for one another. Without warning, a grotesque beast materialized from the shadows of the surrounding woodland. Its guttural growl reverberated through the still night air, instantly shattering their intimate moment. Liam caught sight of it first, his eyes widening in terror at its monstrous form. By then, it was too late. The beast lunged, its talons sharp as glass as they ripped through Liam's shirt and into his flesh. The taste of iron flooded his mouth as his blood spurted from the gashes in his chest. He let out a guttural cry as his body convulsed and grew limp. Myra attempted to run but was trapped by the creature's unyielding grasp, its claws puncturing her skin like burning needles. Their screams of torment ricocheted off the towering trees as they struggled against the monster's steel-like hold. In their last shared moments under this relentless attack, Myra and Liam clung to one another with desperate strength. Their forbidden romance had taken a devastating turn, now tainted with remorse and overshadowed by the ghostly manifestation of their mistakes. Once sated, the monster disappeared back into the forest's shadowy depths as quickly as it had emerged, leaving behind a gruesome scene, two bodies savagely torn apart amidst trampled foliage. In the following days, a cold current of dread swept the village. The brutal fate of Myra and Liam hung in the air, their names whispered like forbidden curses. Their grisly end was a harsh reminder of the catastrophic consequences for those who dared to succumb to temptation's seductive charm. Before me sprawls a ghastly feast, an eerie testament to excess. Tongues of peacock unnaturally slick and shimmering lie in repose beside immense platters of caviar as broad as carriage wheels. Fruits from far-off lands, their hues dizzyingly vivid, emit a disquieting inner radiance. Yet despite the extravagant display, not a spark of hunger ignites within me. My relentless craving, a voracious beast born from greed, has consumed all there is to consume, leaving behind only an icy emptiness that no wealth can ever fill. My journey began with humble hopes, a life of ease peppered with occasional indulgences. But once freed, the demon of greed proved relentless. Each new possession, each goal achieved only served to fuel its insatiable appetite. Modest homes became sprawling estates, simple trinkets turned into priceless treasures, familiar faces transformed from friends and kin into rivals and flatterers. Here I sit now, perched atop my stolen summit of dreams, alone save for the echo of my laughter bouncing off the gold-laden walls of my self-imposed prison. The feast remains untouched, its enticing scents sickeningly sweet, while the air tastes like ashes and regret. Despair nibbles at the edges of my sanity as I attempt to fill this void with fleeting pleasures, the thrill of secret romances or the adrenaline rush of dangerous gambles. Yet the emptiness persists, an echoing abyss filled with silent screams from those wronged or forgotten. One quiet night in the stifling silence of my golden cage, they appear. Shimmering phantoms shifting like smoke from dark corners, their eyes aflame with ancient hunger. They whisper promises of power that could obliterate this ceaseless void. For a price, my soul, seemingly insignificant compared to their promised oblivion. Fear wrestles with desperation within me. Their proposition is ludicrous, echoing countless warnings whispered throughout history. Yet the alternative, An eternity trapped within this golden cage of my own making feels equally intimidating. As I prepare to speak, a spark of defiance ignites within me. This emptiness, this relentless hunger, isn't inherently mine. It's a parasite, a creature of greed that I've nurtured and fed. With a defiant roar, I reject my feast, wealth, and power. Casting off the shiny chains of ambition, I see the emptiness not as a void, but as an untouched canvas, ready for me to paint a new life focused on kindness rather than consumption, love over greed. The figures recoil as their whispers morph into angry screams. The feast evaporates into thin air and the mansion crumbles around me. Bruised but unbroken, I step into the cold light of dawn, viewing the world not as my personal treasure trove, but as countless opportunities to heal wounds I've inflicted. The road ahead will be marked with the scars from my past, but with each act of kindness and every life touched with compassion, the internal void will slowly shrink, replaced by serene satisfaction, riches far more valuable than any stolen treasure. The hunger may return whispering its enticing promises again, but this time I'll be ready, forever watchful and resilient against its allure. Suddenly, darkness, a shroud engulfs everything. The terrifying realization strikes. True wealth lies not in possessions but in choices made, lives impacted, and legacies left behind. I fear it might be too late for me. Incense swirled around me, spectral tendrils weaving an ethereal tapestry as I stood before the makeshift altar. Power pulsed within me, a raw force that tingled on my skin and sent tremors down my spine. The villagers chanted in unison, their voices echoing my name with a blend of awe and dread. My deeds were etched into their souls, storms quelled, diseases cured, and life breathed back into seemingly lost infants. To them I was all-powerful, their beacon in the engulfing gloom. Yet as their praises echoed under the starlit sky, doubt sprouted within me. My so-called miracles were not divine acts but clever tricks born from stolen knowledge, science masquerading as magic. This disconcerting truth gnawed at my guilt-ridden conscience. Their prayers grew more fervent, adoration teetering on the edge of obsession. Under the harsh lunar glow one night, I saw my reflection, not a benevolent deity but a fraud wrapped in ill-gained power. My miracles extracted a steep price, sapping life from villagers to fuel my escalating vanity. Each command felt less like divine directives and more like desperate efforts to maintain the illusion. Fear slithered around me as I noticed changes in the villagers' demeanors. Their faces became gaunt, their vitality fading with each passing day. Reverential whispers morphed into fearful murmurs. They were beginning to realize that their deity was sapping their energy. Panic seized me, but admitting my deceit would incite chaos and expose me to their wrath for such heartless deception. So I clung tighter to my facade, striving to reverse the damage wrought and liberate myself from a monstrous persona, spun from lies. Days blurred into weeks while villagers continued to deteriorate, and pleas evolved into accusations. Amidst the hushed whispers that filled the village square one day, a young girl stood defiantly. "You are not a god," she declared, piercing a silence as potent as pre-dawn mist. "You are a thief, siphoning our lives to power your illusions." With a single phrase, she sparked a rebellion. The once docile villagers surged forward, their anger fueled by desperation. My stolen power began to wane as the villagers' chants morphed into enraged cries. Trapped in my self-spun golden prison, I was left alone to face the repercussions of my hubris. They didn't kill me. Instead, they stripped me of my possessions, banished me, and forced me to live among them as an ordinary man, laden with the guilt of my transgressions. Years passed, and I found myself roaming barren, lifeless lands, a haunting reminder of the consequences of unchecked power and the alluring trap of deceptive pride. As I gazed upon the ruins, memories of my past choices flooded my mind, leaving me torn between regret and defiance. The villagers painstakingly rebuilt their lives, every brick placed and every beam raised a bitter symbol of the devastation I had wrought upon them. I'd stolen their peace, their sense of safety, their hope for a better tomorrow. And in those silent moments under a merciless sun, I heard whispers, not praises, only stark truths. I was never a deity, just a beast controlled by my actions and doomed to carry the burden of them for eternity. My reflection leers back at me, a monstrous parody of the man I once was. Eyes that used to brim with dreams now blaze with an icy, merciless hunger. Each wrinkle on my face silently screams tales of fortunes pilfered and a life wasted on greed's cruel pyre. The cost isn't merely etched into my visage, it's seared onto my very soul, a chilling reminder that true wealth isn't purchased but plundered, demanding a price no riches could ever offset. Sprawling estates, once proud tokens of my triumphs, now feel like crypts crammed with regret. The art collections, each piece meticulously sought as a symbol of success, scoff at me in their hollowness. Praises and power taste as bitter as charred ashes in my mouth. The unyielding yearning for more has consumed everything around me, leaving behind an echoing void filled with murmurs from those wronged and forgotten. One night, in the spectral silence of my luxurious penthouse, these whispers meld into one silky voice, promising to slake this unquenchable thirst and fill the emptiness with unimaginable power. But there's a catch. It demands my soul in exchange for this oblivion. Fear gnaws at me, yet deep within, a glimmer of rebellion ignites amidst the wreckage of my conscience. I refuse to succumb to this enticing darkness after all I've sacrificed. Memories flood back, warmth from genuine bonds, delight from creation, and simple joys traded for transitory power. With a guttural cry, I reject its proposal. A paranormal force sweeps across the room as the voice wails before falling into silence. When I dare look again, instead of opulence stands simplicity. Sunlight spills into an apartment, replacing penthouse grandeur. Collections, mansions, power, all vanished. The world I step into is alien, bereft of my past's magnificence, yet within me twinkles a speck of hope. I'm left with nothing but my freedom. The craving remains subdued. I begin anew, offering my talents and time to those in need. The warmth of communal meals, the laughter of children I assist, the satisfaction from crafting something meaningful. These are the genuine treasures that fill the void no ill-gotten wealth could. The journey is long and littered with hurdles and temptations, but with each act of kindness and every bridge mended, the burden on my soul lightens. Wrinkles soften, but their memory serves as a chilling warning, not just for me, but for all who chase after the mirage of wealth and power. True wealth lies not in gold or possessions, but in the bonds we form, lives we touch, and legacies we leave behind. That's worth striving for, worth defending despite past mistakes cost, even when faced with the darkest temptations. As Vanessa observed her sister Olivia, she felt the coolness of the champagne flute's crystal stem in her hand, a stark reminder of their surroundings. A knot of envy and resentment twisted in her gut. Olivia was the sister blessed with perfection, movie star quality looks, a business tycoon, and loved by everyone who crossed her path. Tonight's celebration was just another showcase of Olivia's untouchable status, a massive business deal that would cement her reputation as a corporate prodigy. With bitterness coating her tongue, Vanessa drained the champagne from her glass in one gulp. "Quite an event," came a voice next to her. Turning slightly, Vanessa met the gaze of an elegant woman dressed in a shimmering emerald gown that caught the light from the grand chandeliers above. "I'm Lilith," she whispered, offering Vanessa a perfectly manicured hand to shake. "And you must be the other Miss Blackwood." A chill ran down Vanessa's spine at being referred to as the other, always second best to Olivia. "My name is Vanessa," she replied curtly, the anger boiling beneath her cool exterior. Lilith's red lips spread into an even wider grin at this response. "Tell me, Vanessa," she started, leaning closer so that Vanessa caught a whiff of her jasmine perfume. "What would you give for just one night in your sister's shoes?" Caught off guard by this question, Vanessa laughed awkwardly. "That's impossible." "But what if it wasn't?" Lilith whispered back with an intriguing smile. Vanessa's heartbeat picked up as she glanced once more at Olivia. She talked animatedly to a group of investors, seemingly basking in adoration from the guests. "Everything," Vanessa found herself whispering back. "I'd give anything." Lilith's eyes glowed ominously. "Be careful what you wish for, darling." She pressed a small compact mirror with an intricate design into Vanessa's hand. "Open it at midnight," Lilith instructed cryptically. "But remember, all magic comes with a price." Before Vanessa could respond, Lilith vanished into the crowd of guests. She stared at the mirror in her hand, her mind whirling with doubts and possibilities. As the night wore on, anticipation gnawed at her insides. When the grandfather clock chimed midnight, adrenaline surged through her veins. Vanessa slipped away from the party and found an empty hallway. Her hands trembling, she opened the mirror. Reality seemed to warp around her as colors blurred together, and a sensation akin to plunging into icy water washed over her. When everything came back into focus, she was standing in the middle of the ballroom surrounded by adoring faces. Her gown had transformed into a breathtaking white creation that outshone even Olivia's dress. The mirror had worked. A glance at a nearby window confirmed it. Olivia's face stared back at her instead of her own. Vanessa felt a surge of excitement as she soaked in all the attention and compliments being showered upon her. This was exactly what she had always wanted. The hours flew by in a blur of champagne toasts and laughter until she spotted Olivia, or rather herself, across the room by the bar. She was livid. Their eyes met for a moment and understanding flashed between them. Panic seized Vanessa as she rushed toward Olivia, attempting to reach her sister before chaos erupted. It was too late. Olivia screamed, "Imposter, that's not me." The rhythmic music ceased and the room fell into a sickly silence. Every eye in the room turned toward Vanessa. An adrenaline rush propelled Vanessa forward, her silken gown bunched in her hands. She fled the grand ballroom, leaving a wake of astonished gasps echoing off the gold-leafed walls. The security guards were hot on her heels, the leather soles of their shoes squeaking against the veined marble floor. Her stilettos clicked against the icy stone as she navigated the maze-like corridors. She pushed open a side door, and a gust of cold night air hit her face like a slap. Freedom was within reach, but as Vanessa sprinted across the dew-dampened grass, a searing pain shot through her skull. She stumbled and cried out as the world spun around her in dizzying waves. Then everything faded to black. When she opened her eyes again, Vanessa was back in the ornate hallway, back inside her own body. A wave of confusion washed over Vanessa, followed by an overwhelming sense of despair. Was it all just an illusion? The sound of footsteps approaching jolted Vanessa back to reality. Olivia's furious gaze sent chills down Vanessa's spine. "What did you do?" Olivia spat as she grabbed Vanessa's arm. "What kind of sick game are you playing?" Vanessa felt a prickle of fear tingle in her skin. It was real. I'm sorry," Vanessa stuttered. Olivia slapped Vanessa across the cheek hard enough to sting. "You ruined everything. My reputation, my deal. All because you couldn't control your jealousy." Olivia stormed away, furious and sobbing at the same time. Tears blurred Vanessa's vision as the enormity of her actions hit her like a freight train. A low chuckle sounded nearby. Lilith leaned lazily against the wall, a wicked grin pulling at her lips. "Quite entertaining," Lilith purred. "Did it live up to your expectations?" Vanessa's despair turned into white-hot rage. She lunged at Lilith, but she easily sidestepped her. "I merely presented an opportunity," Lilith said. "You made the choice." "Fix this," Vanessa pleaded. "There has to be a way to undo it." Lilith's eyes twinkled maliciously. "Oh, there is, but the price, it's quite high." A flicker of hope sparked within Vanessa. "Anything. I'll pay anything, do anything." "Your sister's life." The words lingered in the air for a second before the sound of Olivia's scream tore through the night. Horrified, Vanessa sprinted toward the sound and found her sister sprawled on the ground, clutching her chest and gasping for breath. Vanessa dialed 911 and then knelt beside her sister, cradling Olivia's head in her lap. "I'm so sorry, Livy," she murmured repeatedly, brushing Olivia's hair with her trembling fingers. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen." Olivia's eyes fluttered open and a weak recognition flickered in them. Relief washed over Vanessa as she hugged her sister. Police sirens wailed in the distance, the eerie echoes adding a sense of urgency to the situation. In the dim light, Vanessa's eyes locked onto Lilith's figure lurking in the shadows. Her face was etched with disappointment before she vanished as if swallowed whole by the night. The sight stirred something within Vanessa, hardening her resolve. She glanced back at her sister and realized that she'd been granted another opportunity, an opportunity to be a more dutiful sister and a better person. The jealousy that had lingered in her heart for so long was gone, at least temporarily. The harsh sound of Karen's fork scraping her porcelain plate filled her empty apartment. It was a lonely noise, breaking the otherwise complete silence. Her eyes stared blankly at the empty plate in front of her. A tiny smear of tomato sauce was the only indication she'd eaten. The meal had been woefully insufficient, like all her meals lately. Hunger gnawed at Karen from inside, an insatiable beast demanding to be fed. It chewed at her relentlessly, making her jump from her chair so abruptly that it almost tumbled. She hurried to the refrigerator and pulled its door open with unnecessary force. A wave of cold air hit her skin. The cool made Karen shiver, and a feeling of dread washed over her as she surveyed what was inside the fridge. Leftovers were first on Karen's list. Stale Chinese food, half a lasagna that was more crust than filling, and remnants of roast chicken, all quickly consumed by Karen. Raw ingredients were next. She bit into a stick of butter as if it were an apple without noticing or caring about the oily residue on her tongue, or how it made every breath taste like rancid milk. She cracked eggs one by one and swallowed them whole, shells and yolks alike sliding down her throat indiscriminately. The taste didn't matter as she crammed food into herself. Chewing felt like wasted time, but swallowing was all important. Get the food down, as much as possible. The ache within didn't lessen. It grew stronger with each mouthful she devoured. Days blurred together. Calls from work went unanswered. Her phone buzzed non-stop somewhere in the living room. The doorbell rang repeatedly, her worried neighbors relentlessly pounding on her door, screaming for her to please open up. But Karen ignored it completely, her life taking on a singular focus: to get down as much food as possible, eat. Her stomach swelled. The skin stretched taut over the swollen mass. Pain pulsed with each difficult swallow, but she continued eating without stopping. Catching a glimpse of herself in the hallway mirror showed a disheveled figure covered in sauces and torn clothes. Karen was unrecognizable. As midnight neared, Karen lay on the kitchen floor surrounded by empty containers and discarded wrappers, overstuffed, in pain, but still hungry for more. Her shallow breaths strained. Moving was painful, but the hunger was stronger than any physical discomfort. Dragging herself across the cold tiles, she reached for the pantry, knocking over bottles and boxes in her frantic search. Flour, sugar, anything to fill the emptiness. A sudden sharp pain stabbed her abdomen, causing Karen to cry out in pure agony as she frantically pulled at her shirt to relieve the increasing pressure. Her stomach bulged abnormally, the skin stretched to its limit. A gurgle sounded as a thin red line quickly widened into a gruesome rupture. Blood and bile sprayed from the wound, followed by partially digested food that spilled onto the tiles in a disgusting pile. The smell hit Karen hard, but even now, even as her body was breaking down, there was still the persistent thought. Food. Karen's eyes bulged with terror as her body disintegrated. She struggled to keep herself intact, but it was a losing battle. Her flesh split open, her organs burst, and their contents oozed onto the floor. The room grew quiet except for the sound of her innards hitting the tile and her dwindling breaths. Flies swarmed in from an open window, drawn to the horrifying scene. Finally, her hunger had been satisfied. Days later, Detective Brian Ramirez stood at the entrance to Karen's apartment, fighting his gag reflex. 15 years on duty had not prepared him for this, decay and rot of an overwhelming proportion. "What happened here?" he mumbled through a handkerchief he'd pulled over his nose and mouth. His partner, Andrea Chen, picked her way through the mess on the floor. "A neighbor reported it," she said. "Said they hadn't seen her in days and noticed the smell." Ramirez scanned the chaos. Overturned furniture, broken dishes, food wrappers everywhere, and there in the center of it all were Karen's remains. "Jesus," he muttered under his breath. "It looks like she exploded." Chen squatted near Karen's body, a grim expression on her face. "I've never seen anything like this before. Looks like her stomach ruptured." Ramirez frowned as he prodded an empty pizza box with his pen. "Could it be some kind of eating disorder?" "Maybe," Chen replied, standing up again. "But I've never seen consumption like this before." They waited for crime scene techs to arrive. Ramirez couldn't shake off a feeling of unease. Something about this felt wrong. Across town, in a dimly lit office, a man in an expensive suit read through the police report on his computer screen with satisfaction. "Perfect," he murmured to himself as he minimized the window to reveal a spreadsheet of names and addresses. Karen's name was highlighted in red. Complete. He hovered over the keyboard, selecting the next test subject. Soon the world would experience true hunger, and his company would provide them with a solution, for a price, of course. He pressed enter, initiating the next step of his plan. Somewhere in the city, another woman reached for a snack, unaware that she was about to develop an uncontrollable appetite. Her famished feast was just beginning. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. See you next time. Thank you for watching.